So today I was having a conversation with somebody and we were talking about some of the rules that have come into play with AGF when it comes to referee's decision. We got rid of referee's decision and we have a format now for tiebreakers. So that way there's no bias for referees choosing their team or having to remember every bit of a stalling match and think who won a 0-0 match or 2-2 or whatnot. Some things can be, a lot of stuff happened in a match, so it's sometimes hard for a referee to remember things. And so we also came up with a definitive way so that people finally have a way and at least a format to know that this is the winning criteria if there's an equal score. So some people have said, you know, because at the very end, after the last person to score or the greatest point value, these types of things are in play first, but then eventually if it's 0-0, there's no score, it's the longest ride time, right? So the person who's on top the most. And there are a lot of people that have been upset because they're like typically guard players, and they're like, you know, if I pull guard and I'm on bottom the whole match, I'm upset that it's a tiebreaker goes to the person on top. So really, I personally don't have anything against guard players. If you watch any of my personal matches, I'd pull guard like, I don't know, throw a statistic out like 80-90% of the time. I pull half guard and get the party started. But I also do that because of the rules. You know, if the rules made me stand up, then I would stand up. But I also created the rule in which we had the tiebreakers, and yes, right now the person on top at the very end of a tiebreaker is the one who gets the win and the ride time, and it typically is the guard players that are against that, right? So I wanted to say that I have no issues with guard players. I personally am a guard player as well too, but we have come to a point in jiu-jitsu where there's a problem. We've come to a point to where people are so concerned about flying to a guard that they're breaking knees backwards. People are of the impression on the female side of jiu-jitsu that it has gone from proper structure and stance and standing capabilities and other parts of the game instead of just guard. But for some reason, the females think that they have to jump close guard and win the fight only from their back, even though the close guard is the most immobile guard of them all. You can't transition or move or get up. And so putting the mentality, you know, I'm a father of daughters. And so, you know, I think about this as well too for the self-defense scenario, you know? So I would rather have a female go into a self-defense scenario or to a tournament, have proper stance and structure so she doesn't get folded in half by a simple collar tie. Yes, as a female, they could be on the smaller side of the species than obviously most of the men, but it doesn't mean that we have to create a culture of just flying to the guard or jumping close guard or thinking that we can only win or beat bigger opponents. If a person learns proper duck unders and arm drags and body locks and these kinds of movements, single legs, it doesn't have to just be hardcore collegiate wrestling or judo, but you can adapt it to your game. And I would rather have my daughters and see jiu-jitsu as a whole worldwide for females and for lightweight guard players. I would rather see them stand up a little bit more. We also have another problem in jiu-jitsu where we have double guard pulling, right? And we have guys and females that will sit on their butts for long periods of time, both completely hell-bent on either bare bowling, foot locking, or playing the guard game only. So that has gone so far into one side of the spectrum. Now, there is always going to be two sides of the coin in jiu-jitsu. There's going to be a top and there's going to be a bottom. There's going to be those opinions and those sides of the physical game itself. But I don't think that we should have such a lopsided mentality of the guard in which it needs to be stayed at only, and also perceived as a superior position for a fight, perceived as the position that people should fly to and break knees backwards. It's getting to be a problem, and that's why I think it's better if we have the person on top have the ride time is the one who wins, and at least it's a tiebreaker. We have an answer instead of just opinion. And the person that was on bottom, if they were more active, well, you didn't complete anything, you didn't do anything with a submission that was worthy of a point or anything in any criteria. So didn't complete anything. Did the guy complete anything on top? I don't know, I have to watch every match, but also we have stalling calls by our referees, right? So there should be proactive grappling. We don't want stalling, but sometimes there's 0-0 or 2-2 type matches, and so we have to have a winner of some sort. And it can't just be who's most active again, because then it becomes subjective. So at least we have a formulated rule, and it goes back to the core for me of trying to improve the sport, trying to improve the martial art, and get back to the self-defense side and mentality side of it. Yes, it's a sport where we're not striking and having punches. We can't have MMA in every kid to grandmother training MMA all the time. But we can have a controlled environment with the jiu-jitsu tournament. That was where we originally came here to test our self-defense skills anyways, and jiu-jitsu's going way, way, way away from that. And in person with AGF, we're trying to bring it back. We're not the only ones. This isn't a wild idea. This is the idea of many people across the world, and especially in the United States, other organizations and promotions, other governing bodies that are getting us close to the Olympics. I mean, definitely not an AGF mentality. It's a worldwide mentality. AGF runs tournaments from Bulgaria to Spokane. We're all over the world. We're entering Brazil next. I'm in talks with Ecuador, Philippines, and Malaysia. We're just constantly growing. But me personally, I travel to all these places, and I know the overall worldwide scene. I don't just know the American market, the American media, the American mentality. I know what the Belgians think like, I know what the Germans think like, and I know what the Polish think like, and the Brazilians think like. So there's more than just the American mentality, and there are people who are of the same mentality that it is time to bring it back to a stronger base of self-defense, and a stronger base now that we have more grappling arts meshing with jiu-jitsu, not just wrestling in America or sambo with the Russians and this kind of things, and judo originally with the Brazilians, but there's a little bit from everywhere. There's too much social media sharing, there's too much YouTube, there's too much information out there. People are meshing it and merging it and making it hybrid and better. And we need to realize that we need to follow that. We need to stay with the mentality that people need to come into their first jiu-jitsu class to learn self-defense, but as they progress through the ranks and through the tournaments, that they're still going to be able to do proper self-defense techniques. I would rather have someone lift someone up in a high elevation takedown and land in a dominant position more than I would have them do a takedown and land in someone's guard. We'd rather take someone down and land in a dominant position. That's why I award people for those high elevation points. It's because they land in a better position. It promotes better jiu-jitsu. Not doing it because I'm hating on a guard. I'm not doing it because I'm hating on anyone or any company or anything like that. I'm doing it to try and improve the sport of grappling and the martial art of jiu-jitsu and grappling worldwide, or anywhere we can have a positive influence.